Hare Hare. So welcome all of you for a long break for again our Chaitanya Charitamrta class. Last week we were traveling, so there could not be a session. And I hope that everybody is happy with the change in timings, because many of you were requesting that 9 becomes too late, and for some of you it is dinner time, etc. So considering everything, we have changed the time. So hoping that time is good and things are fine. Okay, can you quickly confirm if I am audible and visible and everything is good to go? Can someone type it in the chat window if everything is good? Okay, great.
This camera has to turn on?
Yes. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapad Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu bhayevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasa Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Namo
Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyate Deshatarine Mukham karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yakripātamaham vande Shri Guru Deenatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So in the last session, we saw the Chand Kazi pastime in detail and how Chand Kazi himself became a devotee, and he promises to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that till the time his generations are there, there'll be no opposition to the Sankirtan movement. So we completed that, and today again, yet we are in chapter 17 of Adi Lila. So today we would enter in Srivasa Angana, where Mahaprabhu performed his youthful pastimes. Ekadena Srivasera Mandire Gosai Nityananda Sange Nritya Kare Dui Bhai.
One day, the two brothers, Lord Nityanand Prabhu and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, were dancing in the holy house of Srivasa Thakur.
Srivasa Putre Rataha Hoila Paraloka Tabu Srivasere Chitta Na Janmile Shoka. At that time, a calamity took place. Srivasa Thakur's son died. Yet Srivasa Thakur was not at all sorry. So now this is a day when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, they were performing their Sankirtan pastime in Srivasa's house. So as you see, Srivas Angan, so Srivas Angan basically it refers to the courtyard of Srivas Thakur. So there Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, along with all their associates, intimate, confidential associates, they were having this Sankirtan pastime. They were all chanting and dancing on the tunes of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So they were all dancing in ecstasy, and in between, such a huge thing happened. Srivas Thakur's son passed away. Now it is mentioned, yet Srivas Thakur was not at all sorry. So let us see why was it so.
Being most sober and conversant with the intricacies of spiritual science, Srivas began to solace the ladies. You all know the glories of Krishna. Control your crying and pacify your minds. A person who even once hears the name of Krishna at the time of death attains the abode of Krishna, even if he is most sinful. That Lord is now personally dancing here, and his servants headed by Brahma are glorifying his qualities. It is proper to lament for a person who leaves his body at such a time. If I can never become as fortunate as this child, I'll consider my life successful.
So this is how we know that he was not sorry, because he has understood the essence of Bhagavad Gita. So we read in Bhagavad Gita, Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevram. At the time of death, whoever remembers me attains me without any doubt. That is Krishna's promise. That is Krishna's verdict there. And here, that same Krishna in the form of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu was not only present, he himself was singing and dancing. He himself was singing the names of Krishna and he was dancing on that tunes. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was personally present, Nityananda Prabhu was personally present. So Srivas was telling his wife and all the other ladies who were crying that you don't really have to cry because my son has attained perfection.
This
So
is the
please-
most fortunate. What could be more fortunate than this?
Yes.
Actually.
Yeah, even he says that if I can ever become as fortunate as this child, I'll consider my life to be successful. So he was thinking that his child's life has achieved perfection. There is no point in feeling bad or sad. So that is why the first line it says he was conversant with the intricacies of spiritual science. So he has understood the essence, and this is how when the calamity comes, then we need to demonstrate. Srivas Thakur is teaching by his own example here. यदि वा संसार धर्मे नार संवरिते विलंबे कांडिहा यारा ये लय चित्ते अन्य ये न खेहा ए आख्यान न सुनाए पाछे ठाकुरेरा नृत्य सुख भंग हाये.
If you cannot check these familial emotions, so here Srivas Thakur is continuing to speak to the ladies of the house. If you cannot check your familial emotions, then at least cry to your satisfaction later. Don't let anyone else hear about this incident. Otherwise, the Lord's happiness from dancing will be disturbed. So here we have another very amazing example where a devotee, for a devotee, Lord's pleasure is greater than his own pleasure or distress. So this is what is being demonstrated again by Srivas Thakur.
कलरव शुनी यदि प्रभु बाय पाया तबे आज गंगा परमेशी मु सर्वथाया सबे स्थिर हईले न श्रीवास वचने चलिले न श्रीवास प्रभुर संकीर्तने. If by hearing your commotion the Lord regains his external consciousness, then I will certainly drown myself today in the Ganges. After hearing Srivasa's words, the ladies became pacified. Srivas then returned to the Lord's Sankirtan. So now what has happened? On one side, Srivas gave them all the essential knowledge and he tried to pacify them with logic and reasoning. And here in this verse, he is sort of threatening them that if you will cry, so what would happen is, because Lord was dancing in the courtyard, so if all the ladies starts crying and the wailing sound reaches the Supreme Lord dancing there, then he would come out of his ecstasy. So he was dancing in ecstasy because he was feeling so much of the presence of Krishna and he was dancing there. So he's saying that if he comes in external consciousness, then what happens is, then Srivas is thinking that he becomes the reason for breaking the ecstasy of the Supreme Lord. So he's telling, if I do that, if that happens, then I will actually go into Ganga and drown myself. So when he politely explained, when he tried to pacify, and finally when he threatened, finally the ladies became quiet and Srivas came back to the Sankirtan. Svanubhavananda nritya kore gaura chandra katak shane rahi lena lai bhakta vrinda prabhu bale aji mora chitta ke man kare kona dukha hai ache panditera ghare.
Gaurachandra danced in his own ecstatic mood. After some time, he and the devotees stopped the kirtan. The Lord said, I can't explain how I feel today. Has some distress entered the house of Srivas?
Pandita bole na prabhu mor kon dukha yar ghare suprasanna tomar shri mukha sheshe achile nayata sakala mahanta कहले न पंडितेरा पुत्रेरा वृतांता. Srivas Pandit replied, what did he say? Prabhu more kon dukh. How can I have any distress? What type of distress can I have? Yar ghare, in whose house? Suprasanna tomar Shri Mukh. So he is saying, when your pleasing lotus face is present in my house, how can I have any dukh? How can I have any distress? So imagine if Chaitanya Mahāprabhu, if Krishna, if he resides in our house, if he is there in our life, if he is a part of our day-to-day existence, then where is the scope for unhappiness? And then eventually the devotees informed the Lord what had happened to Srivas Pandit's son. Sambrame balaye prabhu kaha katak shana shunilena chari danda rajaniya khana tomar anand bhanga bhaye Srinivasa kahare o iha nahi kare na prakasha.
The Lord gravely asked, how long ago did this happen? He was then informed that the incident occurred early in the evening. Fearing that your ecstasy would be disturbed, Srinivas did not inform anyone about this. So gradually the devotees came to know, and then when Lord stopped the kirtan and he started inquiring, so then the devotees informed him what had happened. And now already many hours had passed since that incident happened. So Lord is inquiring, when did it happen? So they informed that it happened early in the evening.
Paraloka haiche adai prahara ebe agya deha karya karite satvara shuni Srivasera ati adbhuta kathana Govinda Govinda Prabhu karena smarana. It is nearly 7.5 hours since the child left his body. Now please give us permission to perform the last rites. On hearing about Srivasa's wonderful activities, the Lord remembered Govinda. So the Supreme Lord, Chaitanya Mahāprabhu, he was so amazed that, because this is not ordinary, this is not even extraordinary, this we don't know how to call that also, because in our life we would see a little deviation from our day-to-day routine, a little problem, and then that thought may just pop in somewhere at the back of my mind that why Krishna is doing that to me? What is happening? Or why Krishna is not helping me? Or Krishna, please help me. But here in this case, we see that death has happened, and he was the father. Srivas was the father of that boy, and seven and a half hours.
So those of us who are parents, those of us who are parents who have children can actually empathize with this situation even more. So what is the kind of tragedy which struck Srivas? But because he was a perfected devotee, he was an exalted Vaishnava. So his vision was very different.
I mean, the dead body was lying for 7.5 hours, and he not even allowed the mother and others to cry also, because his focus was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his service to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. For him, his happiness or his distress did not matter. It was all Krishna or Chaitanya's was in the center and was there everywhere. So his pleasure mattered most to him.
And it was no distress for him, because that's what he told, that for me, my child's passing away at this moment is not a cause of distress, because this is the best arrangement which can ever be possible for any person in this material world. So there was no cause of distress.
Prabhu bale na sanga chhadi bake mate,
Eta bali Mahaprabhu lagila kondite.
Eta boli Mahaprabhu kande na nirbhara, त्याग वाक्य शून्य सबे चिंते na antara. The Lord said, how will I give up such association? Speaking these words, Mahaprabhu began to cry. After speaking in this way, Mahaprabhu cried profusely. The devotees became thoughtful on hearing him speak of renunciation. So actually Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, very soon he is planning to take renunciation. He is planning to leave not only these devotees but also this place also. So he was thinking now that how can I leave such association where devotees are so very wonderful that for them the death of the son is also not counting at all. So thinking that and feeling so much of pain and so much of pain of separation from them, Mahaprabhu actually started crying. And this is the first time when he gave this hint to others, that when he says Hina Sanga Chhadi Beke Mata ki, how will I give up such association? So then others became thoughtful, because not only Mahaprabhu is intelligent, all his devotees are also very intelligent. So they started thinking that why Mahaprabhu is talking like this. मृत शिशु प्रति प्रभु बोले ना वचना, श्रीवासेर घर छाड़ी आओ की कारणा. शिशु बोले प्रभु ये ना निर्बंध तुम्हारा, अन्यथा कराये शक्ति आचाये कहारा.
The Lord then asked the dead child. So what had happened is that Lord went to see this child, and then Lord asked this dead child. So child is already dead for 7.5 hours. And Lord went and started speaking to that dead child. Why are you leaving Srivasa's house? Child replied, Oh Lord, this is the destiny arranged by you. Who has the power to change it?
मृत शिशु उत्तर कराये प्रभु साने, परम अद्भुत शूने सर्व भक्त गणे. शिशु बले ए देहे ते याते का दिवसा, निर्बंध आचीला भुंजी लाना से रसा. All the devotees were struck with wonder to hear the dead child reply to the Lord's question. The child said, I stayed and enjoyed as long as I was destined to live in this body. So actually the child is also talking perfect philosophy. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, he is Krishna himself and he can make anyone alive and anyone dead. So the dead boy, because in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu felt this pain, what was happening there, and then he started talking to the dead child, and there is a long conversation there as how the child explains that I was destined to go and this is the perfect situation for me to go, and please let me come to your association permanently, which means let me have an entry in Vaikuntha Dham.
So it is not just modern scientists who are studying near-death experiences. Here also we have recorded incident of near-death experience, dead experience, experience after death.
निर्बंध घुचिला आर रहिते न पारी एबे चलिला ना अन्या निर्बंधित पुरी ए देहेर निर्बंध गेला रहिते न पारी हे न कृपा कर ये ना तो मना पासरी.
That destined time is now completed, so I cannot remain longer. Now I am going to another predestined body. My destined time in this body is finished, so I cannot stay. Be merciful so that I may not forget you. So we see that this beautiful analogy is given of, Srila Prabhupada gives the analogy of an apartment or a house. That that Mother Nature constructs a house and we go and stay there as tenant. And then we get kicked out of that house. And then we have to search and we get into another house. And then we kicked out of that house and then we have to go to other house. So this is what the boy is saying, that this time I had in this body was already predestined. So there are 5 things which are fixed at the time of the birth. And one of them is the time I have in this body. So you and me, all of us have a fixed time in this body. Now, what do we do with this time is up to us.
Reverse timer is on.
Reverse timer is on. What is it called? Countdown timer. Yes. And here the child is saying that now my time is over. Now I have to go to another body, which is also destined by my actions in this body. And so the child is not, the beautiful point, see, this child is so much realized. He more than you and me, because he has already left that body and now he knows all this reality. So what is he asking the Lord? The only thing that he is asking the Lord is that please bless me so that I do not forget you. Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. This is what he is asking for. He is not asking next birth make me a king, next birth make me a very rich man, next birth make me Devata. No. The only thing that he is asking is that I should not forget you.
के कहारा बाप प्रभु के करनंदना सबे आपनारा कर्मा करये भुंजना यत दिन भाग्य चिला श्रीवासेर घरे आचिला न एबे चलिला म अन्य पुरे. O Lord, who is anyone's father and who is anyone's son? Everyone enjoys the fruits of his own karma. As long as I had the good fortune, I lived at the house of Srivasa. Now I am going to the house of someone else. So this is actually the reality of life. This is what happens. That we keep changing, like Prabhu was telling, we keep changing houses. But the problem with us is that the moment we get into the new house, we start making all the arrangements, like the furniture and the other things, as if I'm never going to leave. The interiors, the furnitures, the curtains, everything. I become so engrossed that I start believing that this is my eternal house. But then I'm kicked out again.
I was just thinking that if we were to go through many lifetimes in a very short span, I mean, if we can remember all that. So it is like, we enter one life, we say, hi dad, and I say, hey kids, and then then there's a change of scene, and then I tell somebody else, hi dad, and I tell somebody else, some other people, hey kids, and after 3-4 such births, if they were to pass in front of her, if we can experience that in a quick succession, then what a realization would that be. And also I was just seeing that sometimes people take up Krishna consciousness and they feel that nothing inauspicious should happen now. I am chanting, I am become a devotee. Krishna says this in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says that my devotee never perishes, this, that, so many promises making. But then why bad things are happening to me now? So here we learn from Srivasa that his own son died. And he did not blame the Supreme Lord. He was seeing that, wow, what an opportunity my child has got. Now this, soul will actually go to the spiritual world because Lord personally is present.
He did not blame the Supreme Lord, and the child also did not blame
Lord
the
also,
Supreme
yeah,
Lord.
yeah. That's also amazing. And I just also think that this child had the greatest opportunity, He was born in Shiva's house, born to great devotees, and in whose house Lord would personally come and perform these pastimes,
We cannot imagine. मृतपुत्र मुखे शुनी अपूर्व कथाना आनंद सागरे भासे सर्व भक्त गणा पुत्र शोक दुःख गेला श्रीवास गोष्ठीरा कृष्ण प्रेमानंद सुखे हईला अस्थिरा. After hearing those extraordinary topics from the mouth of the dead child, the devotees all floated in an ocean of bliss. Srivasa's family members forgot their lamentation and distress for their child and became agitated in ecstatic love for Krishna. So this is how everything changes when we bring Krishna in the center. So if Krishna is in the center, then externally speaking, we may have some challenges, some difficulties, financial or relationship, etc. So we may have those things, but we would not feel the pain. Like how we are hearing here that Srivasa's family members, they also forgot lamentation. So it's not that the son has not died. It's not that the son is going to stay back with them, but they are not lamenting for them. Why they are not lamenting for them? Because they know that Krishna is in the center.
So this is also a test of one's Krishna consciousness. How much his consciousness is Krishna consciousness.
Krishna preme Srinivasa Gosthira Sahite Prabhura Charan Dhari Lagila Kandite Janma Janma Tumi Pasari Kabhu.
In their ecstatic love, Srivas and his family members caught hold of the Lord's feet and began to cry. Birth after birth, you are our father, mother, son, and master. May we never forget your lotus feet. So, this is the best of prayers. That actually there's nobody, no permanent father, no permanent mother, no permanent son or master. Only you are the one. So this is a matter of great realization that birth after birth, you are only there for me. So that's why the child prayed, and now the whole family, Srivasa Goshti Radha, everybody is praying, may we never forget your lotus feet. That I always remember you and I never forget you.
कृष्ण प्रेमे चतुर्दिगे उठिला क्रंदना कृष्ण प्रेम माया हैला श्रीवास भवाना प्रभु बले शुना शुना श्रीवास पंडिता तुम्ही ता सकल जाना संसारे ररिता. The sound of crying in ecstatic love for Krishna arose in the four directions as the entire house of Srivas became filled with love of Krishna. The Lord said, "Listen, Srivas Pandit, you know well the nature of material existence. Ye sab samsar dukha tomaro ki daya, ye tomare dekhe seha kabu nahi paya. आमी नित्यानंदा दुई नंदन तुम्हारा चित्ते तुमी व्यथा कीछु ना भावी आरा.
The miseries of material existence do not affect you. Even one who sees you is not affected by such miseries. So this is amazing. One, that the material miseries don't affect Srivas Thakur, and even one who sees him, they are also not affected by such miseries. Nityanand and I are your two sons, so you should no longer feel any grief in your heart. So here Lord Chaitanya Mahāprabhu, and he offered himself and Nityanand Prabhu in the service of Srivas Thakur as his son, so that we are two of us are your sons, should not feel any grief at the loss.
This is such a sweet reciprocation of the Supreme Lord. So the Lord saw how Srivas Thakur had absolute unflinching faith in the service of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Mahaprabhu reciprocated by personally offering himself, and not only himself but Nityananda also. And he's telling that both of us, we would be your son. We are your son from now on, and please do not lament.
This is what a devotee receives. This is how a devotee receives, because nobody can reciprocate better than the Lord. So Lord gave himself.
मृतपुत्र मुखे कोइला ज्ञानेरा कथाना आपने दुई भाई होइला श्रीवास नंदना. So we have come back to Chaitanya Charitamrta. We were there in Chaitanya Bhagavat, and here we are back. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu caused the dead son to speak about knowledge, and then the two brothers personally became the sons of Srivasa Thakur. Tabeta korila sabha bhakte varadana uchishta diya narayani rakarla samana. Thereafter, the Lord charitably bestowed his benediction upon all his devotees. He gave the remnants of his food to Narayani, showing her special respect. So Narayani was actually the niece of Srivasa Thakur, and this time she was a very small little girl. So as it is mentioned that now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started giving benediction and to all the devotees, and to this small girl he actually gives his own remnants. So Mahaprabhu's remnants is Mahaprasad. What is it? Because he is Chaitanya, he is the Supreme Lord, so he directly, so we offer bhoga and then we get it back. But here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is personally giving his remnants to this small girl, and actually this girl later on she became the mother of Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur. So we are reading from Chaitanya Bhagavat. So Chaitanya Bhagavat's author is Vrindavan Das Thakur, and her mother's description is here, Narayani. So him Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave his own remnants. प्रथमे ते वृंदावन माधुर्य वर्णिला शुनिया प्रभुर चित्ते आनंद बाणिला ताहि मध्य छाया ऋतु लीला वर्णना मधुपान रासोत्सव जल खेल कथाना.
In the beginning, Srivasa Thakur described the transcendental sweetness of Vrindavan's pastimes. Hearing this, the Lord felt great and increasing jubilation in his heart. Srivasa Pandit narrated all the pastimes enacted during the 6 changing seasons. He described the drinking of honey, the celebration of the Rasa dance, the swimming in Yamuna, and other such incidents.
So actually these are the pastimes of devotees actually. Sitting together and discussing Vrindavan. Sitting together and discussing Navadvip. So this is what devotee or devotional consciousness is all about. So here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself would sit and he would ask Srivasa Thakur to describe the pastimes of Vrindavan. And hearing those pastimes, Mahaprabhu himself his ecstasy would go on increasing. So if we see constantly Mahaprabhu, what he was doing, he would hear about Vrindavan, he would dance in ecstasy, and he would give benedictions to all his devotees.
Kevala Ananda Kanda. Only bliss giving
Only
pastime.
bliss. Bala bala bale Prabhu shunite ullasa Srivasa kahena tabe ras raser vilasa.
When the Lord, hearing with great pleasure, said, go on speaking, bala, bala. Srivasa Thakur described the Ras Lila dance, which is filled with transcendental mellows.
So those of us who want to hear more, kindly type bala, bala, and then we will go on speaking, because that is how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is telling, and then others are, Srivasa Thakur is repeating. So we would get enthusiasm when we get your message, bala, bala, go on speaking, go on speaking. We are monitoring YouTube chat also, so I can see many of you are there at YouTube. Jai Ho! So go on speaking. Let's go to the next verse. Thank you everyone. Thank you. Tabe acharyera ghare kaila Krishna Lila Rukmini Swarup Prabhu Apane Haila. Thereafter, a dramatization of Krishna's pastime was performed in the house of Sri Chandrasekhar Acharya. So Mahaprabhu would not only hear these pastimes, they would enact also. So we talk about entertainment. So this was the spiritual entertainment where they would actually perform the pastimes. And here it is mentioned that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took part of Rukmini Devi, the foremost of Krishna's queens. So these are some of the amazing pastimes which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed till the age of 24. And at 24, Mahaprabhu took sannyas. So then we would enter into Madhya Lila. So this Adi Lila actually comprises of the portion of Mahaprabhu's life before sannyas. And then comes the juncture. There were some reasons and Mahaprabhu decides to take sannyas. So this completely changes and we are entering into Lord Chaitanya takes sannyas. So it was an extremely painful experience beyond I can describe, beyond words can say. It was extremely shattering experience for all the devotees of Navadip for whom Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was their life and soul. We just now heard about Srivasa Thakur and how he completely forgets his own existence in front of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And like Srivasa Thakur, there were so many other devotees. And sannyas would necessarily mean that the person would leave his village, he would leave his town. So they all were going to be physically separated from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we will enter into this pastime and praying for the mercy of Krishnadas Kaviraj and Vrindavan Das Thakur and Srila Prabhupada and my spiritual master so that we can describe this pastime. एक दिन गोपी भावे गृह ते वसिया गोपी गोपी नाम लाया विषन्नाहना एक पड़ुया आइला प्रभु के देखीते गोपी गोपी नाम सुनी लागिला बोलीते.
One day, the Lord, in the ecstasy of the gopis, was sitting in his house, very morose in separation. He was calling, Gopi, Gopi. A student who came to see the Lord was astonished that the Lord was chanting Gopi, Gopi. Thus he spoke as follows.
Krishna nama na lauke ne, Krishna nama dhanya. Gopi gopi bali leva ki bahaya punya. Shuni prabhu krodha koila, Krishna doshuk dara. Thengalana uthila prabhu, paduya mari baat.
Why are you chanting the names of Gopi, Gopi instead of the holy name of Lord Krishna, which is so glorious? What pious results will you achieve by such chanting?
Hearing the foolish student, the Lord became greatly angry and rebuked Lord Krishna in various ways. Taking up a stick, he rose to strike the student. So actually, the Lord started saying that Krishna is a rogue. Who will worship him? And then he started actually criticizing Krishna because he was worshipping Gopi's name and he was in the mood of gopis at that time. And as we understand that the love of gopis is topmost. So there is a book called Nectar of Instruction, Shri Upadeshamrit. So there it is described that what relationship is the best or the topmost. So most intense. So there it is mentioned that these cowherd gopis, their relationship with Krishna was the most intense. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at that time, he was in that mood and the student rebuked him. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started telling ki who will worship Krishna? He mercilessly killed Vali. So he started describing different incarnations. He said he mercilessly killed Vali and Vali, there was no fault of Vali. And then he said that being controlled by his wife, he cut off nose and ears of another woman. So he gave reference to Ramachandra. And then he continued like that. And then he said that he cheated Bali Maharaj and he sent him to Patal Lok. So then he said, what will I gain by chanting Krishna's name? I will chant Gopi Gopi. And then he picked up that stick and he started running behind these boys to beat them actually. पढ़ू या सहस्र यहाँ पढ़े एक थानी प्रभुर वृतांत द्विजा कहे ताहाई शुनि क्रोध कैला सब पढ़ू यार गणा सबे मिली करे तबे प्रभुर निंदना.
The Brahmana student ran to a place where 1,000 students were studying together. There he described the incident to them. Hearing of the incident, all the students became greatly angry and joined together in criticizing the Lord. So there we saw that Lord was in the mood of the gopis. And sometimes what happens is that there is some disagreement between the Lord and the gopis. And so
Actually, yeah, that is very interesting. Actually, in Vrindavan, like there are two groups that way. I mean, are you in Krishna's group or you are in Srimati Radharani's group? So all the gopis are in Krishna's group and all the gopis are in Radharani's group and all the gopas are in Krishna's group. So there are so many beautiful pastimes where Krishna along with his boyfriends would go and tease Radharani and the Sakhis. So, I mean, there is always this rivalry, not exactly rivalry. How do we describe?
these loving fights.
Loving fights, yes, like how there are fights among the lovers. So, like that, there would be so many fights. So, this time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was
In that mood.
engrossed in that mood, yes.
But then these students, they were not at that level. They could not understand, and they all became so illusioned.
सब देश भ्रष्ट कैला एकलनी मानी ब्राह्मण मरिते चाहे धर्म भय नाही पुनः यदि आइचे करे मारी बात हारे कौन वा मनुष्य हाया की करीते पारे. Nimai Pandit alone has spoiled the entire country, they accused. He wants to strike a caste Brahmin. He has no fear of religious principles. If he again performs such an atrocious act, certainly we shall retaliate and strike him in turn. What kind of important person is he that he can check us in this way? So now these were proud Brahmanas. So they were Brahman and that is why they are saying that we are caste Brahman. So what courage he has to hit us. So it is against the religious principles. And then they decide that next time if such thing happens, then we will also not keep quiet. Prabhura nindaya sabar buddhi hoila nasha supathita vidya karo na hoya prakasha tathapi dambika paduya nam nahi hoya yaha taha prabhur ninda hasi se karaya.
When all the students thus resolved, criticizing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, their intelligence was spoiled. Thus, although they were learned scholars, because of this offense, the essence of knowledge was not manifested in them. But the proud student community did not become submissive. On the contrary, the students spoke of the incident anywhere and everywhere in a laughing manner. They criticized the Lord. So here we see that they are actually directly blaspheming the Supreme Lord. And although they were greatly learned scholars, their whole knowledge was spoiled because of this offense. So that's why, like today, these days, we in the morning we are chanting the 16 rounds Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and before that, just before we begin, around 5:55, we start reading the offenses which we should avoid committing against the holy names.
सर्वज्ञ गोसाई जानी सबार दुर्गति घरे बसी चिंतिता सबार अव्याहति यत अध्यापक आर तांड्र शिष्य गणा धर्मी कर्मी तपो निष्ठा निंदक दुर्जना. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being omniscient, could understand the degradation of these students. Thus, he sat at home contemplating how to rescue them. All the so-called professors and scientists and their students generally follow the regulative principles of religion, fruitive activities and austerities, the Lord thought. Yet, at the same time, they are blasphemers and rogues. So now this is Mahaprabhu's contemplation. This is what he started thinking, that though these boys who are blaspheming me, they actually generally they are supposed to follow the regulative principles of religion, dharma. So they are not doing that. They have become, instead, they are blasphemers now. So Mahaprabhu was thinking what could be done. ये सब मोर निंदा अपराध इते आमी नाला योइला भक्ति ना परेला इते निस्तारिते आइला मा आमी हैल प्रीता ए सब दुर्जन कायचे हाई बेकहिता.
If I do not induce them to take to devotional service because of committing the offense of blasphemy, none of these people will be able to take to it. I have come to deliver all the fallen souls, but now just the opposite has happened. How can these rogues be delivered? How may they be benefited? So Lord Heart is full of compassion, and he's seeing that if somehow or the other, if he's not able to inspire these people, induce them to take up devotional service because they committed this offense of blasphemy, so what to do so that they can take it up? So that is what is going on in the Lord's mind, that how can he induce everyone to take devotional service despite they are committing such offenses and blasphemy. How can the Lord benefit them? So this is what the contemplation of the Lord is going on.
So this is the thought process of the Supreme Lord, how to help us, and we ourselves keep harming us. Ama ke pranati kare haya papakshaya tabe se ihare bhakti layo ilayaya ateva avashya ami sannyas kariba sannyasi buddhaye mora pranata haiba. I must certainly deliver all these fallen souls who blaspheme me and do not offer me obeisances. I shall accept the sannyas order of life, for thus people will offer me their obeisances, thinking of me as a member of the renounced order. So from here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually gets this idea. So actually, the society at that time was much more advanced than it is now. So people would genuinely offer respects to the sannyasis. So though they were blaspheming, and yet if the same person, if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would come in the clothes of a sannyasi, so they would definitely offer him respect. So Mahaprabhu started thinking that because they are blaspheming me, because they are criticizing me, so they are committing so much of offense, and to neutralize that, they must offer me respects. They must offer me pranams. They must do me dandavat. So how would that happen? How can I make them offer obeisances to me? So Mahaprabhu is thinking, I must take sannyas. Pranadite habe ihar aparadh kshaya nirmala hrudaye bhakti karai bodaya e sab pashandir tabe hai benistara ar kono paye nahi yukti sara.
And another reason is that the sannyasi is considered to be the spiritual master of all the orders, whether it is the Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, or whether it is Brahmachari, Grihastha, or Vanaprastha. Sannyasi is considered to be the spiritual master of all the Varna and Ashramas. So therefore, Lord was considering this. Offering obeisances will relieve them of all the reactions to their offenses. Then, by my grace, devotional service, bhakti, will awaken in their pure hearts. All the unfaithful rogues in this world can be delivered by this process. There is no alternative. This is the essence of the argument. So Lord is thinking that if I take the sannyas, accept sannyas, then everybody, especially these people, will offer me respects. They'll be relieved of the reactions to their offenses, and then I will bless them with devotional service in their purified hearts, and then they can actually become devotees. So then Lord had finally thought that this is the best way forward.
এই দৃঢ় যুক্তি করি প্রভু আছে ঘরে কেশব ভারতী আইলা নাডিয়া নগরে প্রভু তানরে নমস্কারি কইলা নিমন্ত্রণা ভিক্ষা করাইয়া তানরে কইলা নিবেদনা. After coming to this firm conclusion, the Lord continued to stay at home. So internally he decided, but then he was waiting for the proper opportunity. In the meantime, Keshav Bharti came to the town of Nadia. The Lord offered him respectful obeisances and invited him to his house. After feeding him sumptuously, he submitted to him his petition. Tumita Ishvara Bhatta Sakshat Narayana Kripa Kari Kara Mora Samsara Mochana भारती कहे ना तुमी ईश्वर अंतर्यामी ये करा हसे करीबा स्वतः नाही आमी.
Sir, you are directly Narayan. Therefore, please be merciful unto me. Deliver me from this material bondage. Keshav Bharati replied to the Lord, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Super Soul. I must do whatever you cause me to do. I am not independent of you. So, Keshav Bharati also was such a realized personality.
eta boli bharati gosai katayat gela Mahaprabhu tahayai sannyas karila. After saying this, Keshav Bharti, the spiritual master, went back to his village Katwa. Lord Caitanya Mahāprabhu went there and accepted the renounced order of life or sannyas. So this whole process of how the sannyas would happen, we would be discussing in the next class. So this is how actually Chaitanya Mahāprabhu is going to take sannyas now. He has prepared. So one, he made up his mind. So he spoke to, when he witnessed this Brahmana chasing him and then blaspheming him, so all that, and then finally he decided that I must take sannyas. When he met Keshav Bharti, he invited him. So everything is like as per plan, it is going on. So now he has decided to take sannyas, and we will see that how on the Makar Sankranti day he walks out of his house and he goes there in the village which is mentioned here, Katwa. So he goes there and then he actually shaves off his head, performs kirtan and becomes a sannyasi. So next 24 years Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime is covered in Chaitanya Charitamrta, Madhya Lila and Antya Lila. So the second half of the 24 years where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu takes sannyas. So this pastime before sannyas was so very interesting and intriguing and sweet, and the remaining pastimes are sweeter. So that is how Mahaprabhu's Lila is, that from wherever we pick up, it is constantly sweet. So we will stop the session here because we would continue the remaining part of Mahaprabhu's sannyas in the next class. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So there are a couple of announcements. I am sure all of you are aware. Damodar month is going on, and it's a very, very auspicious month. Whatever spiritual activity we perform, we get 1,000 times more benefit. So to help you all with this Damodar celebrations, we have two programs which are going on. One is the Damodar Aarti program, the Damodar Aarti online program, which you can book by visiting our website. We have shared the link at the WhatsApp group, so you can book the slot in your preferred language at your preferred time. You have time till 19th November. The second is every single day in this Damodar month from 6 to 8 a.m. in the morning, we are chanting 16 rounds. Hopefully many of you are joining there. I can see like Indu Lekha and Pankaja Lakshmi, whom I immediately see that they join the japa. So others can also join the japa.
Also Mala Devi and Ranjit Kumar, they are also joining.
Oh yes. Mala Devi, Ranjit Kumar, yes. So many of you are joining. So we request others who are not joining, take advantage of it. This month is spiritually surcharged with devotion, and you can actually feel it. If you do it, you would feel it that yes, how Krishna is personally helping us here. So please join us for morning 6 to 8 a.m. japa. If 16 rounds is too much for you, probably you can join for just for 8 rounds or 10 rounds, but our humble request that please don't miss this month because it will come only next year.
21 more days to go, 9 days over, choice is ours.
So looking forward for more participation for the morning japa session also. So thank you all very much. Attendance link have you shared? So attendance link has been shared. Somebody is asking, Aditi is asking.
Yeah, so attendance link is shared. The meeting will be on for another maybe 1.5 2 minutes. Just mark your attendance and then we'll end this meeting.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Krishna Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.